the next question then I want to ask is, what would you say the success rate on average is between for candidates in recruitment? So just thinking not to dishearten a lot of people that are going for a lot of jobs and don't get much
Yeah.
success. The thing is, there's always going to be a number of candidates and one position, so you're always going to fail more than you succeed. You got any thoughts on?
Yeah. So again, I think this comes down to the type of position. So personally, if I'm recruiting, my process is obviously like putting the job description out, applications, screening call, and then whittling it down from there. Generally, for like your C-suite, you'll end up with maybe 3 candidates at the
Mhm.
end who kind of go through each phase of the interview, online, in-person panel, to get to the decision. So it's quite difficult to kind of quantify that, I think, because equally I've had situations recently where the company has hired all 3 people because they can fit them in.
Right.
So I wouldn't say there's like a hard and fast on that. I think statistically, if you look at it, I think it's like 1 in 10 or something like that, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
Um,
It gives an idea though.
yeah, but it is quite challenging. But again, and this comes through interviewing, and this is what happened with this company where they've taken on 3 people. They all had the right work ethic, they fit the company culture, they were really open-minded because they were passionate about working for that company.
Hmm.
So like one of them was happy to go into like an operations position, and one of them was happy to go into like more of a managerial position,
Yeah.
which isn't necessarily the positions they applied for. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's quite hard to quantify because I am seeing companies do this more often, not create positions, but like look at skill sets and be like, okay, we're missing that skill. That guy's brilliant. Like,
Yeah.
and then slot people in. So yeah, it is hard to quantify, but I would say that anybody who does get a no, ask for feedback. And generally, I think you do get a gut feeling, don't you? If you've been in an interview, like you do get a bit of a gut feeling. But just ask for feedback, I'd say. And if you get
Personally, I've always thought though that I'd never trust my gut feeling on that because you just never know what the competition's like.
there,
I've
yeah,
been in so many interviews where I've gone, oh yeah, I nailed it. And then unfortunately, for whatever reason,
yeah,
there was somebody who's just that 1% better fit and they didn't have enough opening. But then I've been in other interviews and I thought, oh, could have gone better. And they're like, yeah,
yeah,
we love we'd like to place you here. So I just try and turn my mind off to that. If I think, okay, the interview's
yeah.
done. As long as I've done the best that I can do,
Mm.
then that's all I can do. I have actually a question back to culture and sort of like capability.
Mm.
How much? Well, obviously from this conversation and some of the stuff I've taught in the course, we've really sort of shown how important it is to target your CV, target your make sure you do the research in the organization,
Mhm.
target your prep for that particular organization, and really want to work there. And that speaks volumes to the employer.
Yeah,
Obviously, you need the capability as well, but if you don't have all of the boxes ticked, which almost nobody does in some positions,
right.
they're willing to train you. So having the enthusiasm for the place, the company that you want to work for, it can tip you over the edge and just get you that position. How important would you say between the two, capability and enthusiasm for actually wanting to work for that particular company and showing that you fit the culture?
Yeah,
Um, which it's going to be different for every situation, of course, and
yeah,
every employer. But if you could just give us I don't know, top of your head thought between the two.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's say we're going for a position, a brain surgeon.
Mm,
It doesn't matter if he can do that job well and it's
mm.
on his CV, then it doesn't matter. It-
Yeah,
you know
and they desperately need brain surgeons, and you can
exactly.
do
Yeah,
it.
I would say outside of positions where you categorically need something like that, I would
Hmm.
say that how you look on paper is probably only half the battle.
Right.
And and I say this because there's been a lot of research done recently and a lot more statistics, and there's a lot of like well-known people like Stephen Bartlett, he's really key for like talking about this, that like you can train somebody, you can skill somebody, upskill somebody, but you cannot change someone's personality. You know, so, and you've got to think about the trickle down. So if I'm hiring somebody to manage a team, and you know what, they've got 30 years experience, they've got the best sales, they've got this, they've got that, brilliant, it's all on their CV, it's backed up, it's referenced, it's amazing. And then you meet them and they're dull as dishwater, and they've got to lead your team, an impressionable team. And then you get somebody come in, they've got 5 years experience, they haven't got maybe the figures, but you know what, they've done the job well, and they're enthusiastic, and you can imagine them inspiring your team. It's a no-brainer, because how that's going to trickle down into the rest of the company, how those people are going to react. So yeah, so I would say like it's heavily on like your commitment, your engagement, your enthusiasm, because they want to see how you're going to translate into the company.
Yeah.
Whereas if you come into your interview where you're putting your best foot forward and you behave like that, they're just going to be like, okay, do you know what? He's just done this too long, or she's just done this too long.
So, yeah. Okay. So putting my management hat on now. So, you know, when I employ people for my business on creating courses, and when I've managed people in other positions that I've had, what you're looking for is do they actually care about, if you feel like they're actually invested, and you've always got numerous plates spinning, and you've got to be on top of so many different things. And if you can hand over some work to a delegate and even if you know that they couldn't do it as well as you could, at least if you know that they are invested in it and care about it, they're going to be on top of it. You can mentally park that. And then if there's any problems, they'll come to you and you can discuss it. Whereas if they're a bit nonchalant, when you delegate any tasks to them, you might not have a gut feeling or confidence that they care enough to really, really do it. So already, you know, if anything goes wrong, they might not notice. So there's something definitely to the fact that if you come with enthusiasm and you're invested, that employer is thinking, I feel confident and comfortable to be able to give this work to this person. And just going back to your example about somebody that's maybe got loads of experience and has got loads of different job options, I suppose there's maybe I don't know how to frame this, but maybe there's a threshold where when they get so many different job offers, or they know their value and they can get a job on the market, and they're not targeting and not thinking about where they want to work and who they want to work for, then they may come across as a bit nonchalant, because they're like, well, I can get this, you know, I know I can do this job and I've got many different other options. Whereas the person who really wants to work for that company, who doesn't have loads of options, has put all of their work into getting that job with that particular company, might come across to that employer much better than the person that's more qualified.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say that that's exactly right. Kind of like I say, within parameters of, you know, you can train somebody. Yeah, I'd say that's exactly right. I would have said 10 years ago that was probably the opposite, if I'm honest. You know, it was very much like, okay, we're here to do a job, end of. Don't matter, you're not here to make friends, like that whole thing, like you're here to do a job. So yeah, I'd exactly agree with that. And it's one of the things, like I think at the very start of this conversation, when I said about the complacency and the mindset, that will translate into interview, you know, if you get that far. So yeah, so just, you know, if it is something that you do struggle with, I think, and if it is something that you are like, oh gosh, it's my third interview this week, and you know, you're kind of feeling a bit down, try and not let that affect you, because like you might be feeling a bit down yourself, and you might actually be really enthusiastic or happy to work at that company or whatever it is, but you just need to remind yourself of that, because like, you know, it doesn't hurt to be humbled. And if you're told no multiple times because you do go in complacent, it's just going to be a vicious circle. So yeah, even if you do feel a bit like, oh well, I can just get this job anywhere, and don't let that come through, because you'll be job searching for a long time.
Yeah. Okay.